Them, Pooh muttered. How hard, how hard, squealed Piglet.
Yeah, I know some things about tabletop related to this that are not public, but that this has been a problem for a lot of tabletop publishers for a while.
Just print your shit somewhere else.
Yeah, the problem is all the good printing is in China.
I saw a video of how board games are made that looked like an amazing factory in Germany.
Yeah, that there are
that
a
was
few
making
places.
ultra high quality cardboards and all that sort of
The
biz.
tricky parts are
And I saw a lot of familiar games being printed. And
Yep.
I saw they showed all the templates for games.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we can just go get these templates out of here and make any game again because they just save them all. And I saw some very familiar games in there.
Yep.
So
There
and
are
they had a
some
lot of them.
There are some complications to that, not just price, because that's a late capitalism thing we got to fix, but
I would just charge a lot for my game.
yeah. Then the
and
margins
I would-
are so small.
Oh no,
already.
I'd just charge more and I'd print fewer or whatever. I don't care. I'm not making the game to make money. I don't expect to get rich off a board game. I would make the game to make the game.
Yeah, well,
and
that,
charge
that,
what it costs.
Yeah, I mean, our goals, if we formed a game studio, are make enough money to live in New York, and otherwise, just make games.
Right.
Games that are unpopular.
Yeah, if I had to charge $100 for a game that's normally people look at it and say that's a
Yeah.
$50 game, and I say yeah, but I'm printing it in Germany.
Oh, I remember what I
on
wanted
the
to
nice,
talk
the
about.
highest quality cardboard, and not in China. So deal with it.
We got enough to say, so I won't bring it up in this show, but the thing I wanted to talk about was there was that article like, it's really amazing how today a AAA console Nintendo game is still $65 to $70, because actually that's ridiculous, and if we tracked inflation, video games should cost like $200. Like $70 in $1988 was a lot of dollars for an NES game. And the industry is kind of broken because we're not paying enough for games anymore.
Well, you could argue we were paying too much then.
But that's what it costs to make games ethically and pay everybody. Anyway, we'll do the show. Well, that's a topic for a future Geek Nights. Because there's a lot to say about it. I feel like it deserves its own topic.
Depends.
You know, we could do a Wednesday show. How much should games cost?
Depends on the game.
Yeah. All right. It's Tuesday, October 8th, 2019. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, we are talking about a train game in space. 2038, Tycoons of the Asteroid Belt. Can you build a financial empire in space? Yep, we're just starting. So yesterday, I stayed at work a little late because there's a whole thing going on, like a big important project. And, you know, I'm a product manager and I do a lot of things. It's hard to say what a product manager means because it literally has a different definition in every company. But basically, I was asked to make some slides to be able to present something to important people today. So yesterday, I stayed like an hour late and I made these slides because people have realized that making slides is something I am like fucking pro at. Like, I think the two of us could just have a job making slides, me and Scott.
Oh man, if anyone wants to hire me as a professional slide maker, that job would be way easier than the job I have now. And if you pay me more or as much, I mean.
So I stay late and I make these slides because today at like 10 a.m., I got to do a really important presentation on these slides. So first I got to figure out what the hell these slides are about. I gotta like do my thing. So I get my thing ready. I get up early today. I head over to the subway at like 8:08.
You have to get up early to get to work by 10?
No, I wanted to get to work a little early to like look at these with some of the other people who are going to be in the room and like a sanity check. And I had to go to a different office, so I wanted time. So I got up a little early, like have a leisurely morning before I do a big thing. And I get on the train at like 8:15, 8:10, and suddenly the train like runs over something and stops dead and just sits there, not moving, in the tunnel with no signal. I was trapped on that train for 2 full hours. The worst part about this for me at that point was simply that a lot of people, including my boss, were like expecting me to show up at this meeting at 10, and 10 o'clock was actually rapidly approaching, and I had no way to tell anyone what happened to me.
Nope.
So
Not when you're under the river.
So as far as
Literally.
I can tell, like all these people are converging on this room, like for this important meeting, and bit by bit, I imagine it's starting to be like, "Where's Ram? Hey, he hasn't even like shown up at work yet. It's 9:45. Where is he? Did you try calling him? Yeah, I tried calling him. Can't get through. What's going on? I don't know. Has anyone seen him? Like that is clearly going on. So eventually, after like 40 minutes, they get on and they're like, yeah, the emergency brake, something, something, something. And then they just kind of trail off.
Crack of shit.
Yeah. So eventually, someone walks through the train very slowly. And people are, of course, asking them questions. Well, walks through the train is not quite what happened. Shoves their way through the train because I was stuck for 2 hours standing up, crushed against the wall on a completely packed subway train.
Oh, it was a full train.
Completely full. So I'm like crushed against the wall, like rereading the same Waypo story again because I ran out of shit to do on my phone.
Just play Race of the Galaxy 100 times.
I finished that book I was reading and I hadn't downloaded a new book
Well,
yet.
you could never run out of pages if you were reading
Tale of
Genji.
Tale of Genji is not actually on my phone. I've
Well,
been reading that on my Kindle.
Mistakes are made.
Yep. I would have been okay.
You can get the Kindle app on your phone and sync it.
Yeah, I should. But anyway, Tale of Genji is gonna get on my phone tonight. The next time I'm delayed for 2 hours with no internet, I will have a literally unlimited amount of entertainment. Because if I get all the way to the end of Tale of Genji, it'll have been so long that I could go back to the beginning, having forgotten the details of what happened.
Correct.
As happens when I watch certain anime over again.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, the train is not going to move. So they announced that rescue trains are coming.
All right. Well, so if people don't know, it's the 7 train,
The
right?
7 train is like the second most
Right.
important subway in New York.
There are several trains that go underneath the East River. There are also trains that go over the East River on bridges. Like the J train just goes on a bridge right over.
One of them goes so deep that it has to go under Roosevelt Island. It's the deepest subway station in the network.
The F train goes under Roosevelt Island. The N and R trains, they have a tunnel, right?
Yep.
The E train has a tunnel,
Yep.
right? But then the 7 train has its own tunnel.
Well, the 7 train has something known as the Steinway Tube.
The Steinway Tube. It's
Cast fucking iron. It's over
Right.
100 years old.
It is a cast iron literal tube. Also, those are IRT trains, so they're narrower, right, track-wise, and narrower trains than I get the track-wise, but the trains are narrower, right, than the BMT and IND trains.
The
right?
deal there, because we're going to talk about a train game,
And
so I feel
those
like this is relevant.
And those tubes are super narrow. They're so narrow that they do not have room for a worker to be in the tube working while the train is in the tube. It's not like normal tunnels where like you have a nook to hide in. It's like, no, they want to work on the tunnel, which they have to do a lot because they're old and busted tunnels.
They need to be new tunnels need to be dug, but we can't afford that because of upstate New York.
But anyway, so they have to basically stop 7 service between Manhattan and Queens in order to work on the tunnel. And also, the tunnels are just cast iron tubes that are constantly leaking water into them.
So there's pumps in there.
Right? Like, think about it. Even if there's not a hole in it, which there probably are holes and cracks in it somewhere. But, if you take your cast iron pot, it's sort of like it can get wet, right? It's like it's not 100% non-porous, right? So water is getting in there all the time. It's underneath a river. And they have to pump that water the fuck out. There are pumps running all the time. If enough pumps fail, then it will flood, and you can't go in there now.
The important thing is the NW train and the 7 train, between the two of them, that is millions and millions and millions of people.
Yeah.
Like, that is a hugely important subway system. Those two sets of trains. So the city has a protocol where if one of them is down, the other one cannot, under any circumstances, be down, or it is a ridiculous disaster for the city.
Yeah, man, everyone on E train.
Yeah,
everyone on
is
an
already
F
like
train.
100% capacity.
Yep, everyone on an EF train.
Yep. So the 7 being down for like 3.5 hours.
I guess M train also. Anyway,
Like that train being down probably caused tens of millions of dollars in economic damage to New York City.
Yep.
Like it was a big disaster. So eventually, a rescue train comes in from the front.
Yeah, they can't come in from the side.
Yep.
It's a
they
tube.
Can because there are 2 tracks in this tiny tube.
Yep.
And we were kind of near Grand Central. Like we were approaching Grand Central. So they brought a train from the front and they just rolled it up. And eventually, like, they opened doors, they made a platform between the two and put up all these tarps, and then they made everyone walk from the train we were on forward to this new train. And once they got everyone on that train, they were going to take us into Grand Central. I don't know if you understand how long New York City subway trains are. It took like a half hour to get everyone to walk into this other train.
Well, you only need half the people to walk into the train.
Because you can bring another train
because the
to the
rear
back.
half had another half, right? But
Yep.
I imagine you were in. If you're in the front,
I
even
was
if
in the front car.
you're in the front car, you still have to walk the entire length
Yep.
of the new rescue train to get to its front car.
Yep.
Well, was rear is now going to be front car when it moves the other direction.
Yep.
Anyway.
So we walk up eventually, and then this rescue train is going to go, and it starts to move a little bit, and then it fucks up, and the emergency brake kicks in, and it gets stuck like 5 feet away. People... I wanted to crack a joke at this point, but someone else in the car literally said my favorite phrase in the world, "Thank you, New York."
Okay.
So eventually the train, like, we get into the station. It's like 10:01. So, of course, my phone goes apeshit now. And I call my bosses and everything, and they're like, yeah, the meeting's about to start. So I run to my office, which is not where the meeting is, log into the video conference, out of breath, and I do the presentation remotely while someone else presents the slides in the room. And that was super difficult and stressful, and I couldn't even hear what anyone was saying in the room because the microphone in the room was bad. So people were asking me questions, and I was guessing what they had asked, and I guess I answered every question correctly, despite not actually hearing any words they said, except a few nouns.
Mm-hmm.
Everything went fine. I didn't actually learn until later when I was talking to Scott randomly that what had happened was the car I was in, ran somebody over, and
Yep.
that thing I felt was the crushing.
Yep.
And those tarps were so that no one saw it.
There were tarps under the train?
Well, they put tarps up as we had to walk from one train to the other train, and they put like tarps up that all the workers were implying it was to make it sure we couldn't like fall out the side because we had to jump across from one train to the other. There was like a 2-foot gap.
Don't they usually just take a metal sheet and use it as a bridge?
They didn't have that yet. They waited until everyone.
Aren't those like included in every train car? Like there's just like a secret compartment.
You're thinking of Metro North, and those are for side to side train rescues.
You could still use it.
Yeah, they did. We had to jump across this like 2-foot gap.
What if someone couldn't jump?
Everyone who couldn't jump, they waited until everyone walked across, which was the vast majority of people, and then MTA workers like went and individually
They picked up the old
everyone
ladies?
else. Yeah, they individually helped everyone else one by one.
Okay.
So that was my odyssey this morning.
All right, well, my opening bit is way less exciting than that and way less unusual. So I've been trying to buy some jeans.
Oh.
So
Let's go to Uniqlo. They don't have the good Uniqlo jeans anymore, but they still got okay jeans.
Well, but that's the thing is the Uniqlo jeans I got the last time I got Uniqlo jeans, right? They were, right size, right comfiness level, but they were lacking in the durability and lasting department. They literally broke.
Meanwhile,
and I was like,
the old Uniqlo jeans, I still have one pair of those left.
I was like, even
7 years ago.
cheapo Levi's, they're not the comfiest, they're not the best fitting, but they don't break. They're super strong, right?
Yep.
So I switched by a
See, I
recommendation.
gave up. All my jeans are just basically spandex, and I just replace them every
Right.
few years because
But-
they wear out.
Well, I was recommended to go get American Eagle jeans, so I did, right?
They're okay.
A
They
few
don't
years
fit that
ago.
well, but they're really durable.
Well, so what happened was I got them, and they were way comfy, and they were the right size, and they were stretchy, and they look good, and whatever. But what happened is some of the ones I got, right, they were like 32, 30. The inseam was 32, which was correct when they were new.
I go with a 34 because...
and they shrunk a little bit,
Uh-oh.
and then they became a little high watery.
Ooh, the high water is the worst.
Right. So then I tried some 34, but that was too long.
So my
didn't shrink
current
enough.
strategy, I wear 30 34s, so 30-inch waist, even though it's a little big, but it's hard to get 29 34. So I get 30 24, or 30 34, and I just roll up the cuffs. I do the style of I have rolled up cuffs in all my jeans.
Right. So anyway, so then there's a company called Madewell, which is owned by J. Crew, and in the city, all their stores only sell ladies' clothes. And they specialize in denim. They have like denim bar.
So I'll admit straight up, a lot of my jeans are women's jeans because they just fit me better. So
On their website, however, the Madewell website, they have man jeans.
Oh, but not in the store.
So, yeah, right. So I ordered their man jeans on their website, which were expensive, but Amanda got some and was like, oh, these are worth all the money. They're so great.
All right, I'm intrigued now.
So I ordered them from the website, but the ones I ordered, they were way too big.
Uh-oh.
So I went...
What, like are the numbers just wrong?
I don't know, they were super long and super fat in the butt area. Like the butt was like, I had like a little parachute butthole.
Yeah, that's partly why increasingly I just wear spandex that looks like jeans.
I know. So then, apparently the thing is you can return those at their store. So I went to their store, and it took 2 minutes. I gave them the jeans that came in the mail,
All right.
and they gave me my money back.
All right.
So then I'm like, you know what? I heard about this store, right? I work in like Soho. It's like the fancy fashion-y district where like ultra high-end shit, where, you know, rich people buy stuff. I'm like, let's just go. They're not going to kick me out. I'll just go to the rich people store, try on some rich people jeans and not buy them, and see if is it worth it to buy $250 jeans.
So the last time I did that was gloves. I went to the fancy place in Midtown. This was like 10 years ago, and I was like, what are fancy gloves like? And I tried on some leather gloves, and they were like butter. And then I thought, these are what, like $400? All right, no, they were $4,000.
No,
and I walked out of that store.
So I went to this store, Rag and Bone, where the jeans are $250 each, right? Expecting not to buy any jeans. Oh, I didn't buy any jeans, by the way.
Wait, Rag and Bone, I don't think I know that place.
Yeah, not paying $250 for one jean. Fuck that.
I would if they were durable
Right.
and perfect. If I could wear them for a decade and they were comfortable.
The place was very much Shall I Warm Sir's crack pipe. The dude wanted to like bring me water while I was in the dressing room in case I was thirsty.
I hate that.
Right? And was
See,
offering
the glove place, they followed me around like they thought I was a shoplifter because I didn't look fancy enough.
Right. So the thing is for $250, it's like, all right, maybe what, you know, if this jean will last me 15 years.
I mean, I bought a $1,000 computer chair a long time ago, and I'm still using the
right,
exact same chair.
Right. So, and like, if this jean is the most perfect fitting jean in the universe, right, and will last me a super long time and looks fucking great, then I might consider buying it if it was on sale, maybe, right? It's like,
Yeah.
And so I go to try on a whole bunch, right, and they don't give you lengths on these; they're only width. And
What?
there's only width, and they're all about 34s, at least what they say. And then if you need shorter, then you can tailor them. You can get them.
Yeah.
You go get them shortened.
Uniqlo does that.
And the guy actually suggested we will shorten them for you for $30, but he's like, you should just go somewhere else. It will be cheaper and faster.
All right, good on him. Good on
Right?
him.
Because he says that, yeah, it takes us like 3 weeks to do it, and we charge $30 each. But basically, they just make all their jeans slightly longer than any average person would need them, and then expect you to shorten them.
See, I choose to do the new style of always get 34s and just roll them up.
Right. But yeah, so also their jeans run big, which I'm like, if they're expensive, fancy, rich people ones, shouldn't they just be exactly right? Why are they right? But I took.
Well, for that you need tailored jeans where they make them for you.
Yeah. Anyway, I got 32s in 2 different colors, but basically the same exact jean, and one of them was like different size than the other.
What?
It was like
This feels like
they were not. I was expecting like perfect, amazing comfort and whatnot. No,
because like when I got a few tailored shirts for like fancy occasions, and they were expensive, but not crazy expensive. But they were expensive, but they fit perfectly.
I mean, these were
like so perfectly. It's weird.
I mean,
like Finn's grass
yeah,
sword. Weird.
They were nice jeans, and if I would have gotten them tailored to the right length, they would have fit all as perfectly as a jean is gonna fit.
But you could.
But they were not 3 times as good as a $90 or, you know, whatever. They were not.
It's like with steaks. A $10 steak ain't that great. A $20 steak's pretty good. A $40 steak is great. A $400 steak is only slightly better than a $40 steak.
Right. The $250 jean was not 3 times better than the $75 jean.
Find me a steak that's $10 times
jean.
better.
85? I don't know.
Find me a steak that is 10 times better than a $40 steak, and I will pay any amount of money for that steak.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't exist.
So I do not recommend the $250 jean. What I did is I went back to the Madewell one, right? The ladies' jean place.
Yeah.
And I just went back to the website after getting my refund. And I just ordered a smaller size because I can just return those again too if they're not any good, right?
Also, for that price.
And if that doesn't work out, I'll try some other place.
How much do actually just straight up tailored jeans cost then compared to these like multi-$100 not tailored jeans?
I mean, I could have just bought those $250 jeans and had them shorten them, and that would have been...
No, tailored means they like measure multiple parts of your body. And
Every other part of the jean was pretty much exactly right.
Okay.
As long, you know, but... not worth. It wasn't as good as the price.
Because I got the problem of because I run so much, I got really big gams and very few jeans.
So
have a tiny waist and big gams.
Well, so what you got to do if you got that is they have athletic cut jeans, which basically are this like extreme tapering situation, which is
Yep.
good if you're like a hockey player and you have a giant ass and giant thighs and like
Stick ankles.
normal size calf.
Yep.
The
problem is I
it's
also have
actually
big calves.
it's actually a relatively recent development. It used to just be like skinny, slim, straight. Now there's like the athletic cut is a relatively recent thing
Yep.
that is for people with gigantic thighs and asses.
The other problem I have, though, is for any of you who've met me in person, I have freakishly tiny wrists and ankles.
I have tiny wrists and also long arms.
Yep, long arms are annoying.
While I was there was like coats in the store, and I was checking them out, and I saw a really nice coat at another store recently, and when I looked inside the coat, it was $4,000 or $2,000. And I looked at a coat in this store, and I was like, "Oh, that looks like that $2,000 coat." And I was like, "Oh, it's only $1,000."
That's how they get
I
ya.
guess I still won't buy this.
I saved $1,000.
Right, but I tried it on, and basically the medium, my arms came way out the sleeve, and the large was like, a balloon.
See, that's what I don't get. If you're paying that much money for something, it better be tailored. Like if it's off the rack, it should be cheap.
Right.
Anyway.
And then I was in another store. I was just passing by, and they had a similar coat, and it was like, "Oh, only $500." Like I'm not buying this one either.
I remember when I was a kid, I got a $90 jacket once.
Whoa!
And I wore that jacket until it was just threads.
I got a
It
leather.
disintegrated around me.
I got a
It was
leather jacket
green-dyed
and
suede leather. I love that.
I got a leather jacket in high school from like this leather goods store in the mall that was way good, at least at the time. And then the zipper got busted, and then I had someone fix the zipper, but it was still busted. And then I just never went and got the zipper fixed again. And then by the time I was like, "Oh, I should go and get the zipper fixed on that fucking thing," and I went and I put it on, and I was like, "Wow, this jacket from the 90s looks way derpy." Even if it was fixed, it's sort of big and poofy and derpy looking. Wow. Why did I think this is cool when it was new? And then I donated it at the coat drive at the holiday season. And after like 15 to 20 years after I got it.
So there's a lot of really big news. We're really only going to talk about one thing before we get into our Space Train game review. But briefly, if you didn't notice, the professional hockey season has started.
Well, the NHL season. There's a lot of other professional hockey in the world.
Yeah, but this is the only hockey where at the conclusion of the season, some team will have the right to hold Lord Stanley's Cup. And there's no like lockout, like all that's like none of that happened. We're getting just normal hockey. And I continue to be a fan of the undefeated New York Rangers.
Oh, what happened to your Detroit team?
I've lived in New York for too long.
You disloyal person.
I moved to the
You think if I moved to Detroit, I would be like, "Go Wings"?
If I moved to Detroit for 10 years, I would probably really
If I
follow the
moved to
Rangers
Detroit
again.
and lived there the rest of my life, do you think I would ever want the Red Wings to win?
But Scott, what about the people who are born in Buffalo? You got to give them an escape.
You mean
There's gotta be a way
my
out.
coworker who is from Rochester and was like, "Scott, take me to go see the
Look,
Sabres," and I was like, "Okay."
I can see the Red Wings play in New York like at best twice a year, or I can.
You mean
go
once a year? Oh, I guess you could see them against the Islanders.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the level
can go
of
see them-
desperation it would take.
You can see them play against the Devils.
Yeah. I'd rather go see them play against the Islanders.
Okay.
But or I can see the Rangers play all the time with a half season. So I live in New York. But anyway, the big news, and it's all still developing. So I want to set some context for this because China has gone after both Activision Blizzard and the NBA in a very short span of time. And these situations are both evolving kind of rapidly. So I want to sort of set the stage by explaining something people don't realize. You might have seen me talk about this on Twitter. The video game industry, and to a large extent, the tabletop board game industry in the entire world, regardless of whether or not they talk about it, follow most of the Chinese censorship rules because the reality is you either sell your games in China if you're a big company, or manufacture your games in China if you're most tabletop game publishers, or you're done. Like, you can't make money. Like, that's how the world is. People whether we like it or not, whether we talk about it or not, they tend to follow all of China's rules to avoid having to deal with the Chinese government giving you shit or seizing your games or denying you access to the market.
Yep.
Like, that's the thing. That's why you tend to not see Taiwanese flags in any video games. Other countries pull similar shit. Like, India does the same thing with if you show Kashmir the wrong way on a map, but because of economic reasons, big companies don't really care if they can sell their games in India, but they care a lot if they can sell their games in China because most of these companies might be in trouble if they couldn't sell games in China financially. In fact, in many cases, they might be liable for damages to their shareholders because of ridiculous and possibly out-of-date fiduciary responsibility rules. I am not a lawyer. This is not investment advice. But that is the context for this. Blizzard got called out because China effectively forced them to do this.
Well,
and the NBA got called out because the NBA, I don't know what's going to happen with the NBA.
All right, you didn't talk about what actually happened, right?
Okay, so here's the details. And you can read these stories for the full details because we're not news, we're commentary.
Right. So in the NBA, right, I think it's the owner of the Rockets, I believe.
I think so.
Right? Or is was that the coach or the owner? I forget. I don't pay too much attention to the Houston Rockets, right? The point is, the dude made a pro-Hong Kong comment, right? And then Houston Rockets are the most popular, and not only is basketball super popular in China, right? But the Houston Rockets are the most popular NBA team in China because that's the team Yao Ming played for.
Yep, a lot of sponsorship deals in China.
Right, Yao Ming is a big dude. It's like, yeah, you remember the super tall Chinese dude who came and played basketball for a little bit and then went back to China. He basically runs basketball in China now. He's a big deal, that guy. But yeah, but because of this comment, China's like, well, we're not going to broadcast any Rockets games. In fact, now we're just not going to broadcast any NBA preseason
remember
games.
This, the company that streams NBA in China is Tencent. The same company that's holding Blizzard by the balls.
It seems like Tencent only exists to distribute Western things and make partnerships with Western companies to do Chinese things. It seems like that's all that company does.
Pretty sure Tencent made that like mobile Call of Duty game to sell in China. There is... like it or not, video game companies, like the only way to really make money is to make mobile versions of your IP and sell that in China through Tencent. Like, that's how you make money.
It's like every time it's like, oh yeah, we're going to work with Tencent to do stuff in China. Okay, whatever. It's
so the Chinese Basketball Association
can I just invest in Tencent?
Relationship with the Rockets, like merchandise is no longer allowed to be sold on Alibaba, like all sorts of shit went down.
Right, so now the NBA has to skirt this line. It's like, okay, well, we don't want to condemn this guy for saying something that's A, right, but B, in America where you have freedom of speech, right? But C, if we don't do anything about this, we're going to lose a fuck ton of money.
Yeah,
right.
Like to the point that it might be a problem for the NBA.
Right, the NBA's long-term plans are basically to like have real NBA teams in China and make it a real thing.
Oh, and before we, don't think
and make the NBA a worldwide league, and that there's one person making one offhand comment can like screw that whole thing, like a multi-billion-dollar comment.
The NHL actually has a similar strategy because hockey is getting popular in China as well.
There was a CWHL, a women's hockey team in China, right?
There's also, you've noticed in a lot of Rangers games and other hockey games, you'll actually see various Chinese firms buying ads in the games. Oftentimes those ads are even in Chinese.
Like I don't think hockey's that big in China yet,
but it's really big as far as I can tell.
If you're a sports league, you're trying to make Chinese people care about your thing.
I'm not an expert, but as best I can tell, hockey is really big among upper class people in certain parts of China.
I mean, I'm sure
wealthy people like hockey there.
I mean, wealthy people around the world.
I mean, hockey is a very wealthy person sport for a lot of reasons.
You have to be wealthy to play hockey.
Yeah.
You need an ice rink. You need skates and all this other shit. It's not like soccer. Anyone can play.
Yep.
Anyway, so with Hearthstone and Blizzard, what happened was this dude, Blitz something. What's his name?
Oh, this dude is my hero.
Yeah, Blitzchung, right? So this is a Hearthstone guy that I had known. I just knew his name. I knew he was a Hearthstone player, but I didn't know anything else about him. And basically, he was at a Hearthstone tournament. I think, did he win? I think he might have won. I'm not sure.
He won a match in the Grandmasters.
Right, he won a match, and then there was an interview. And at the interview, he was just like, yeah, Hong Kong, woo!
Well,
Basically.
he said the thing that is like super illegal to say in China.
Yes.
Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our time. And he wore goggles and a face mask in solidarity with the protesters.
Right. He's basically like, yeah, let's go Hong Kong, with his, which is what I recommend pretty much anyone do. If you manage to get put on a stage and you get a mic with enough ears, right? Do not take that for granted. Don't use it what it's intended to be used for, right? It's like if you win an Oscar, don't go up and be like, oh, thanks so-and-so. You should do what many other people have done and use your moments of nationally broadcast television in the most effective way possible.
Yep.
Right?
Single-payer healthcare.
If you win an Olympic gold medal, go ahead and raise up your fist. You only got one shot. Don't wait. You got this opportunity. Don't fucking waste it. And anyone who doesn't waste it, you're a badass. I root for you. Good job. So anyway, this guy wisely did not waste his opportunity while many, many people were watching him on Twitch and other places around the world. And then, as a result, Blizzard denied him all his winnings from Hearthstone this year.
All the things Blizzard did are partly because Tencent owns a chunk of Blizzard. And Blizzard isn't just Blizzard. Blizzard is Activision Blizzard. Activision uses Tencent to make money in China.
Yep. And he's banned from Hearthstone. And now what's happening is Blizzard's between a rock and a hard place because on the one hand, right, if they don't do this, they're going to get all the Blizzard games could just get booted out of China.
Like literally half the Overwatch League will disappear and Activision Blizzard may not even be able to sustain the league anymore.
Right. And also, on the other hand, if you look at, say, the Blizzard Reddit, the Hearthstone Reddit, any of that,
if they continue to do this, they're going to lose the American teams.
Even Blizzard Blizzard employees were covering up, the slogans at the Blizzard headquarters.
Yep.
that say every what does it say? Every voice should be listened to or something. Every voice should be heard. Something like that. Yeah, they were basically so on the American side, everyone's just like, well, I'm done with Hearthstone. Fuck you. Fuck this, right?
Yep.
Fuck Blizzard, not playing your games anymore. Deleting my Blizzard. People are deleting their Battle.net accounts. All right, just like, oh, fuck that. The end.
Yep.
So, on what you see, and even politicians in America, right? Even bad Republican ones and the Democratic ones. I saw at least one Republican and one Democratic senator commenting on even Blizzard specifically, not just NBA.
When the U.S. government says the right thing, it's either the Democrats or the Democrats and the Republicans. It's never just the Republicans. They've never said the right thing.
They don't say the right thing on their own. No, that doesn't.
No.
But
they both agree that this is trouble.
They're basically like, yeah, China uses its threat of, cutting you off from their market, right, to control your behavior.
Now, tabletop games, this is even worse. Because most tabletop games are manufactured in China. China has a history.
Well, we did. I don't know if we did a news on it, but there was
they seized that game.
Yeah, there was a Call of Cthulhu supplement, I think, that was being printed in China, and I think it had the issue with the maps. I think we did do news on this. It had map issues, right, with regards to the, those islands that China cares about for I don't know what fucking reason. Just get over it, Jesus Christ. But anyway, as a result, that RPG was not ever shipped to the U.S. and all the copies are just burned in China.
And while I am not at liberty to give specifics, I have been told of specific instances and seen specific guidelines that were disseminated non-publicly, given to various publishers at various times over the years. Not recently. This is all from 3 or 4 years ago. That basically said, follow these rules or we will fuck you over. Mm-hmm. You can't get around this stuff unless you completely produce your game outside of China.
And don't sell it to anyone in China.
Or at least if people play your game in China, you don't rely on that revenue and you do not interact with the Chinese government and you do not care if the Chinese government allows you to continue to sell there or not. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think that non-Chinese game companies have a moral imperative to not sell their games in China.
Yeah, I mean, I think
China does not get to censor the world.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
The U.S. has done a lot of shitty things. Our government is completely fucked up. But the one thing that we've almost got right is that when it comes to creative expression, there's freedom to make creative things. And the fact that the entire video game industry of the world has been basically following Chinese censorship laws without even telling you, this is not something new. This is just this all being exposed to you now because they can't hide it anymore. Esports is a global thing. There are Chinese fans, there are American fans, they're all in the same league. One side's going to give in this. There's no compromise possible here, I don't think. And I don't know how this is going to play out. I'm going to keep playing Overwatch because I really like Overwatch, but at the same time, I think Blizzard should have been in the Chinese market. And if that destroys the Overwatch League, as much as I love the Overwatch League, so be it.
Well, I think, there's a certain thing going on, right?
And
Where
I say this,
if
full
someone, if
disclosure,
you do,
I own a lot of Blizzard stock.
Right.
I would be harmed myself personally and financially.
if you do
by
something,
this.
if you do something that China wants, and you don't sell it there, they just sort of copy you, right? And so it's sort of like, well, I can't really threaten them by denying them this thing. They'll just copy it, right? It's like, yeah, China kicks out the NBA. It's like, because they got their own league, right? But it's like, but are the people in China, isn't there still some element of them being like, hey, you're denying us the best basketball players on earth, right? It's like, yeah, I like my Chinese league that I go to. I like going to see RIT hockey.
Yeah.
But
I know the NHL exists.
Yeah, if you banned me from seeing the NHL, I'll be fucking pissed. I mean, there's KHL teams. They make money. They have fans. There's, Finnish teams and Swedish teams. There's leagues of hockey around the world. There's soccer leagues around the world. But imagine if, like, okay, you're in South America. You can see, the American Cups, all the soccer that happens in South America. We're not going to let you watch World Cup or Europa League or Premier League. We banned those. It's like
there's some news. Apparently, the team's considering firing Daryl Morey over this.
Yep. That's the NBA guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's like there must be some amount of pressure that can be had from denying China something that they can't necessarily copy. They can't copy LeBron. They can have basketball, but they can't have the world's best basketball that is the United States thing.
Short
right?
of a multi-decade effort to build up a pipeline, like all the things that make basketball players in America possible.
Right.
That's a long-term investment.
It would take a long time for the Chinese Basketball League to produce a team that is better than the NBA All-Star, right?
I mean,
the dream team.
I think a long, long time ago on GeekNights, I talked about the Global Football League that was American football played by literally everyone but the United States, and how utterly amazing that league was.
Yes.
Japan was apparently the champion for multiple years in a row.
Yep. But anyway, the point is, I think that where possible, right, where there is some leverage, like, say, NBA, right?
The NBA has way more leverage than Activision Blizzard does.
Well, yes and no, right? So if the NBA was to say, fine, China, stop massacring those Uyghur people, or otherwise, no basketball for you, right? I feel like they have a moral imperative to do that. They aren't gonna, but they should. I would if I was the commissioner or whatever.
Yeah.
But think about Blizzard, right? There's probably actually more people in China playing and caring about Blizzard games, playing WoW, StarCraft, Overwatch, Diablo.
True.
Combined than there are people who need NBA. Imagine if it was just like, all right, everyone who's ever bought Hearthstone cards guess what? We're shutting down all Chinese servers and blocking anyone in China from accessing any server in any other country, and we're kicking you all out of our esports. That's it. No Chinese people can play any Blizzard game. You're just all cut off until your country is better. Exert that kind of force instead of just bowing.
The trouble is,
would those people in China get way mad and do something?
Or would the state apparatus of propaganda basically minimize the existence of Overwatch and Blizzard?
Yeah, but I mean, if you've been playing World of Warcraft in China for how fucking long, and suddenly it's just like,
World of
well,
Warcraft
the end.
in China is actually very different from World of Warcraft in the U.S.
I'm sure it is, but it's still, if you're invested in a game and you spend a lot of years on it, and you're again, this guy's, the guy who quit Hearthstone, right? He's just like, well, I lost 4 years of my life, but he doesn't see, obviously for him, it's more important, right?
Yeah.
But
well,
imagine if you were pro-China, right? You're a Chinese person who's pro-China, but you also, play a Blizzard game, and suddenly it's just like, oh, we deleted your account because your country sucks, fix your shit. maybe that person would get mad and do something.
I don't know if they'd get that message, though. The message from the state propaganda apparatus would be this evil capitalist company is denying you this because they hate you.
I mean,
I'm sure
I would
they can spin a
also,
narrative.
before I got blocked in China, I would disseminate messages to all the players, and then right, it's like they would try to open up, their StarCraft, and it would say exactly, right. I'd sneak that patch in; it would be on their computer before it got blocked.
Yep. There's a complication here that I don't.
You
want
gotta,
to get into.
it involves a lot of, there's a lot of details in how you execute.
But I want to get to the main bit. But there's a complication here in that Activision Blizzard is a publicly traded company, meaning there's a fiduciary duty to the stockholders. It gets weird if a large company denies itself a whole bunch of profits in situations that I'm not qualified legally to give you any advice about.
I mean, but the point is, regardless of that duty, I would just ignore that duty, right? And then it's like I'm a big CEO, right? It's like, okay, the board and the shareholders take me to court. I would first of all have lawyers and an argument. I'd be like, well, the American players are all leaving. I had to do something.
The shareholders tend to be richer than you and have better lawyers.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not the point. The point is, I would have an excuse. I would go and argue the excuse in court, even if I lose. Right? It's like
at least it did the right thing.
Right, I did the right thing.
But
and
here's the thing
I can sleep at night, and in fact, I would be happy because, I fucked China, good, and I fucked these rich asshole bosses, double good.
Most American...
I made their shares worth nothing. Fuck them. Yeah.
Most American...
That would be a success.
Gamer bros who just want to play their AAA games, the trouble for them, I'm not saying we should give a shit about them, but... Without the Chinese market, I think a good chunk of the American video game industry disappears.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Because we're already in the middle of a huge bubble.
People who play the AAA games don't realize how much you're being propped up and subsidized by, the Chinese market.
We're thinking about doing a Tuesday show on the price of games because that's a topic that we can't get into because it's time for...
Actually, good reason to go Nintendo. Nintendo is not being subsidized, but Nintendo doesn't really have anything in their games that need censoring either.
Yep.
So...
But anyway, things of the day. So when I was a kid, I believed in UFOs, 100%. I thought ghosts were real.
Me
UFOs
too.
were real.
I would go to the library and check out UFO books. It was mostly because all these stupid shows on TV that I believed stupidly.
And one of those shows, the one that I think is primarily responsible for this for me, was Unsolved Mysteries.
I only watched that one a little bit. It was more for me like these random.
I watched every goddamn episode of this.
I watched all these weird Roswell special things. When I learned about the FOIA on AOL, there was actually a page where you could send an FOIA request, and I sent an FOIA request for
I did something similar on Prodigy
for Roswell shit, and then the government sent me this big envelope full of papers that I didn't read. It was like a huge ass envelope full of a ton of documents, and I found that documents when I cleaned out my mom's house recently, and then I recycled it.
But only like a third of the mysteries that Unsolved Mysteries were ghosts or aliens. The rest were just like murders and financial crimes, like real crimes with real people. And
the one I remember though, the only Unsolved Mysteries episode I actually have a clear memory of was like Ghost in a Hotel that George Washington stayed in.
I remember that episode.
Okay. So I wasn't misremember. I wasn't making up a memory.
No, that's a real episode.
Okay.
I remember that one.
Good. All right.
The entire show is legally for free just on YouTube for you to watch on their official channel.
Nice.
And even better, they did the syndication episodes, meaning they have the full commercial breaks. Like if you're a nerd that really cares about that. Not the commercials, but the commercial, like the cuts and all that stuff.
Oh, okay, but not the commercials.
Not the commercials.
Oh, I was going to say, how are they get the rights to the commercials?
Because it's in syndication, it's those episodes. If they solved it while the show was still going, they actually show you the solution. So I was watching one last night, and we're watching it, and I'm watching this piece of shit husband who 100% murdered his wife.
Yeah, of course.
And it's him. It's actually him, and like it's real people in this show.
Oh, it's not actors.
No, most of the people in the show were not
reenactors.
actors. They were not actors. They were the actual people.
Okay.
So, which actually is weird watching this like 20, 30 years later.
Yeah, those people are all older dead.
Yeah, but
or
I'm
way
watching
older
this,
than they were.
and they're like, we'll never know. And I was like, that guy did it 100%. Holy shit, that husband did it. Like, holy shit. And then it cut to the update, and it was like, yeah, the husband fucking did it, and we sent him to jail. And I was like,
right.
yes,
Good job. Got it.
The show crazily enough,
If you killed your wife, why the fuck would you go on TV?
to prove his innocence. I get the impression
That's
they
not gonna work.
They tricked a lot of murderers into literally being on this show, and then they got caught because of the show. Because the crazy thing is,
Well, it brings
this
attention
show-
to your case that otherwise could have been a cold
Yeah,
case.
remember, this show...
You don't want attention if you committed a crime. You want to be quiet.
This show was before the internet, and they legit solved a lot of crimes because people called these tip lines. So
A lot of crimes only get solved or investigated or prosecuted by even like the DA, like the public prosecutors will find out about cases to go and investigate from basically journalists, investigative journalists. Some journalists, and this is basically just investigative journalism, right?
Yeah.
Some independent journalist working for a TV station, trying to make a TV show, is looking through some records, trying to find cases that weren't solved, right? Oh, here was a person who has a death certificate of murder, and no one went to jail for it. Let's go get all the info we can. And then suddenly, it's on TV, and then the prosecutor it's brought to their attention. And then, oh, look, we solved it because they actually put effort into it because we brought attention to it.
the funniest thing, though, is that Emily never really seen this show, so...
Oh, never at all.
So
All
we
right,
watched
she
an
didn't have on
episode,
TV.
But the way I described it was like, so every episode will have like a UFO, a murdered wife of some kind, some sort of embezzle. Like I listed like the cliches of the show, and we turned on the episode, and it was literally the cliches.
Someone
I had listed.
embezzling a UFO from their wife.
So what do you got?
So there's this dude. What's his name? It says
Dan Cordero.
Dan Cordero is a professional wedding photographer as their job. All right. And
Oh, this is so good.
and if you know, a lot of games these days, especially Nintendo games, like Breath of the Wild, has a little camera.
Yeah. Do you know how many selfies I've taken in front of ridiculous shit in that game?
And you often forget to use it. Like, because when you get it, they like teach you to use it and make you do one quest involving it. And then you pretty much hardly have to use it really anymore in the game. You can, and you get benefits from using it, but you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
I barely used the camera at all in Breath of the Wild. And then I only used it a couple times. Like, oh, right, I can use it to find items. And
Yep.
right, I was like, I used it for a couple things, and that was it. But yeah, Mario Odyssey also has a camera. I think a lot of Nintendo games just look for the camera because it's going to be there, right? And he went, and since he's a photographer, played Mario Odyssey, and also used the fuck out of the camera with their professional photography skills and took all these photos of Mario's Odyssey, and it's some really great fucking photography and composition going on here.
This is really fun.
It's really great. I don't know how much Photoshop was involved. I think he's at least removing, some various things possibly from scenes or cropping definitely in certain scenes and things like that. But in general, still a fucking great job using the camera in Mario Odyssey. I did actually think about doing this in some because I know that just other general FPS games, any game with a camera on Steam, you can just use the screenshot button.
Yep.
So there were times I think I took a photo in Skyrim once that was way good. So stuff like this. So I've thought about this in the past, but this person has taken it to the extreme conclusive level that it deserves.
These are great. And some of it, they're subtle. They're just well composed. This is really good.
It's real good because I got the good things today.
In the Meta Moment, the GeekNights Book Club book is The Tale of Genji. It's real long. We're reading it. It's the first novel. You should read it too.
I'm going to be done with my apartment viz probably in a week and then probably be reading again.
We will be live at PAX Unplugged, which is coming up not that long from now.
Nope.
We will be doing at least one panel. We're very likely doing Take Your Damn Turn.
Oh, yeah.
I'm real excited about this one. I already started making slides.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's my job is making slides. And we will also be doing one of our learn and play, learn and win sessions. But we're not just going to do one game. We're going to do 3 games.
Daddy 3.
In the same session. You come to someone else's session, they're going to teach you one game over the course of 2 hours. We're going to teach you 3 games in the same 2 hours. We're going to do a cockroach poker.
Oh, you're going to spill all the beans?
I'm just going to say we're going to do cockroach poker and 2 other things.
Okay.
I bought the games myself. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw some pictures of the games we're going to do.
We should do Ants in the Pants or Cootie or something.
Oh, so actually Wizard's one of the games we're going to do.
Okay.
But I couldn't get the American Fantasy Wizard. There weren't enough copies available. So I got the German version.
Yeah, why would you get the American one?
Because the German version was more expensive.
But it says Zavra and Nar.
Every card has a name. And they're all different. and they're written on the cards in the German version. I know what Scott Johnson is called now.
Oh, okay.
They're all like the king, the banner, like they'll have names on them.
All right.
And they're way lower quality than the American release.
All right.
Like the cards are just like shittier stock and the color's worse.
Okay.
Like they're just bad otherwise.
Okay.
But this is going to be a fun time. PAX Unplugged. I think it's my second favorite PAX now.
It's a good PAX.
PAX West, PAX Unplugged, PAX Oz, PAX South. A long gap, PAX East.
Let's PAX it.
Oh, wow. We've gone for like almost 50 minutes already.
Well, the stupid China thing is too much to say.
We could make that the show and do Space Trains another time.
You already put the title of the show.
Yeah, there's people streaming right now waiting for us. I guess we can do the Space Train. Just be a long show. It's fine. Space Train. Let me go back to the game itself.
Don't get that much to say about the space.
True. So as you know, we a while ago reviewed a game called 1846, Race for the Midwest.
Right, so it's an 18XX game. It's a real train game. When people say train game, that's the game they're talking about. Right? They're games that, often include things such as real historical representations of actual trains.
Yep. You got like operating rounds,
right.
And stock
the
rounds.
Basic core idea of all these 18XX games, right? I think we reviewed 1846, which if you are going to get into these games, that is the first one to play.
Yeah, do not start with this one. I don't even know if I
No.
want to recommend playing this one.
No. We reviewed it in late 2017. Now I've played a lot more of these games since 2017. And basically the core of these games is this really, they seem complicated, and they are complicated for the average person, but that's because of reasons. But the core thing of all these games is that you invest in companies in one round. Then the companies actually do business for 2 rounds, 2 identical rounds. And then you invest or divest in companies again, and you repeat this cycle of invest, work, invest, work. And whoever has the most shares in a company during the work set turns is the person who actually controls that company during the work turn. It's like the company isn't you. It's separate from you.
You have your money.
Right.
You run companies that you have a majority share in.
Right. So to win, you want your money to be the most at the end of the game when the bank runs out of money. But, sometimes you control a company, sometimes you might not control any companies. You might buy a company that used to be someone else's. You might sell a company. Now
You might end up with 3 companies in front of you, and now your turn takes for fucking ever.
Right. It's like, the companies go in order. So it's like one company might go, then it's someone else's company, then it's your company. Right? That's how it works. It's investing, and then the companies do business, and then you investigate. And you're controlling, basically, your investment decisions. Which companies do I want to have shares in? Along with trying to make certain companies do well and make some do worse. The ones that you have more shares in, you want to do better, so they spend out more money. And the ones you don't have shares in, you want them to do worse, so that other people will not make as much money. So when the game ends, you win. That's all there really is to it.
Yep.
Is
And if
this
you wanna know
combination
more
of
about like these details, like what these games are like on like this higher level, I will link to go listen to our old review of 1846, because that's where we talk about a lot of this in detail.
Right, and
we're gonna review this train game in comparison to other train games, and in the context of, I was about to say normal.
Nice.
Let's just say regular board games.
If you don't understand the other train games, you're not going to understand this review really well, because the way it's hard to talk about it and except using words that only people who understand these games will understand.
And the other thing I would say is that this game, 2038 Tycoons of the Asteroid Belt, if you have never played one of these train games before and you like the kinds of board games you see at a game like PAX, I doubt you will enjoy playing this game.
Right.
This game is not easy to play.
Right. There is no reason for me to try to explain this game in simpler, terms to someone who doesn't know anything about these games, because this shouldn't be your first one. And if it's the only reason to listen to this review is if you already know about train games, 18XX games, and you want to know about this one.
But the reason for that, because I like 1899, 1889?
1889 is the Japanese
That's
one?
my favorite one so far. 1846 is my second or third. I like 1846. But,
anyway.
But the thing I'll say about these games that's relevant here is that they all have this fundamental problem of, I don't want to say naive game design. It's not that problem. But they are designed for goals other than elegance and consistency of their mechanics.
Correct.
They're designed for the historical experience. People who play them tend to like very fiddly rules that
Yep.
have like there'll be more exceptions to a rule than the rule. Like you cannot internalize all the rules to one of these games unless you play them a lot. And if you
Right.
play them a lot, they actually break down pretty poorly. So the problem with these games for someone who likes to play normal board games is that you can't just learn the mechanics and then start to play. You need to be constantly figuring out all the exceptions and fucking with the rules. And unless you have a facilitator, basically these games always need a game master or an expert to help you play them.
Or a computer.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Then they're very difficult to play. But that said, I love the shit out of 1846.
Right.
and
Well, I'm saying, like I
1889.
said, that core concept of investing in companies, controlling some of them, right, and trying to make the most money is a great game.
And I still think
You could even and the best part is that simple framework can be expanded, contracted, and rearranged to make lots and lots of different games. You could make the investment part simpler or more complex or even crazy complex. You can make the operating part a completely different game. There's a game called Big City Shoulders or something like that. I
Well-
forget the exact name of the game. If you go to Board Game Geek and type in Shoulders, there aren't that many fucking games with the name word shoulders in the title.
Yeah.
You're going to find it. I think it might be City of the Big Shoulders. Anyway, it's an 18xx game with an investment round and operating
City
rounds.
of the Big Shoulders.
I got it right. But basically, instead of trains, it's like a Euro game in the operating part. It's like you invest, and then you play a Euro game, and then you invest. It's the same, right?
Then there's games like Chicago Express. Take the core concepts of a train game and just like distill.
Right, anyway.
Or Paris Connection.
So 2038, what it does is it gets rid of the historical part by putting you way into a theoretical space future. We know we're probably not going to have space trains in 2038 at the rate things are going. But if we did,
which already presents a problem from a game design perspective because the fiddly, like fucky mechanics of the other historical train games at least are trying to model very real world history. Meaning, if you know something about the 1840s in the Midwest, that historical knowledge will actually help you
A little bit.
be better. Not a lot, but like a little bit. Like you can intuitively play the game by doing the things that make sense as an intelligent human being looking at a complex situation.
and in fact, if you do things that happened in history, right, or
They tend to play out the way they played out in history.
right, they tend to play out. So it's like, oh yeah, that rail line was built there from the Civil War,
But
from
then
there
this
to
event
there.
caused it to be irrelevant.
Right, and then they had to dynamite it, and that happened around this year, and the game starts in this year. So if I do that at this timing, it kind of
Yep.
works out.
So the games are almost more experiences. Like if I play an 18xx game and I lose terribly, like go bankrupt or something, it's still really fun because it's almost like I'm playing this weird simulation. It's like playing a Civ game just to see how the world ends up.
I've never won, and I've never been upset playing an 18xx game.
Yep. But
Any-
with 2038, it has that same level of fiddly shit from a fictional, inconsistent world.
Right, and the thing is, the fiddly shit is so fiddly that it becomes onerous.
The operating round of this game where you run the trains, like my train goes here, here, and here to make this much money, is really fun and makes sense, and I liked it, but as soon as it scales up even a little bit, it is a disastrous mechanic. Like
Right.
it is unplayable.
Right. So normally the way it works in most of the 18xx games is when you actually there's a point at which after everyone's done building tracks and shit, we figure out how much each train spits out. And what you do is you look at the board and you say, all right, my train has to start at one of my spots, right? And it gets blocked by other people's spots, and it can go on pretty much any track, right? My trains just can't, my trains can't overlap each other, but I don't have to care about what anyone else's trains do. I just can't go through any spots they're blocking with their stations.
Yep.
Right? So it's pretty easy to look at a board, and it might not be easy to 100% perfectly get the most money out of the trains.
But you're close enough.
But you can get very close. And once you get very close, it's like, well, what changed since last turn? Well, one piece of track was upgraded. Well, I guess my route is upgraded by $10 then. right? I'll just run the same route again with that one upgrade. And you don't have to...
It tends to balance to where it might take you a little while to figure out, but that is downtime for the other players to figure out some shit that they're going to be doing.
Right. It does. It's not too bad. It could be improved. A computer should just tell you the optimal routes and spit out the money with no thinking whatsoever, but it's not so bad that it's a problem that you're like frustrated with. In 2038, the way it works is each company operates in order.
Ain't no tracks in space.
Right, going around with their spaceship mining asteroids and collecting ore. But the problem...
And delivering all that stuff
and
to another
delivering
space
it.
station.
Right.
And potentially refueling.
Right. When a ship picks up ore, right, it picks up a little piece of cardboard off the board or flips it over, and now no spaceship for the rest of the turn can get that ore.
That turn might involve like 5 different companies each running multiple spaceships.
Right. So the first person sends their spaceships out, and now you see which ores have been flipped over, and then the next person goes and sees which ores have been flipped over, and basically each person has to, for each spaceship, every turn completely rethink and refigure out the exact optimal way to get the best ores, right, with each spaceship. And then you can't even begin to think about your spaceship until everyone before you has picked up resources with their spaceships.
It made the game interminable. Now, on one hand...
And the early turns is not a big deal because it's like, okay, well, this one picks up the only 2 ores it can reach and no one else can reach them. Fine. And there are also ways to stake claims on certain resources and no one can take them, and hopefully you would claim the best ones, and that way you can quickly just be like, well, this ship takes all the claim spots, no thinking necessary because no one else can take those, they're claimed, but you still get, when you get better ships and more of them and unclaimed spots, or you ran out of claims, you don't have enough claims, those later turns in the game, starting about halfway through, become a big mess. Plus, it gets
part of that might have been that the way we were playing it, because we weren't fully versed in, like, there's no history to look at.
Yep.
So we ended up making companies in a way that was a little bit weird.
Yeah.
Like the way the board broke down.
Totally legal, though.
Yeah, but totally legal. But it basically means that there is a trap where if the game evolves a certain way, the game will take 4 times longer than it normally would. Mm-hmm. But even if the game performed optimally, this operating around situation would still be a serious problem.
Right.
And even worse, unlike, say, Eclipse, which has a very elegant physical mechanism for representing complex resources, this game gives you fuck all for physical bits. You could solve this problem not
with a
completely,
computer,
but you could solve like a third of this problem just by having better physical components and ways to track this stuff better.
Yep.
The game doesn't give you anything to do this.
Right. Another thing that contributes is also the lack of stability in the game. In a lot of other train games, there'll be a series of rounds where things pretty much stay mostly the same. Like the turn order of the company stays the same mostly.
Yep.
You know, the ownership of the company stays the same mostly. Everyone just sort of operates and upgrades for a few turns, just moving things along. Here, it's like, all right, well, this turn, suddenly this company's value went way up and now it's going earlier, so that changes everything.
Yep.
Right? Oh, and now all these companies merged into the Asteroid League. Well, that fucking changes everything. Right?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah,
I want to talk about that because that part's really cool. I really like
that part is really cool.
Yeah, there's
right?
basically, in these train games... Well, we'll get to
I'm just saying it contributes to the instability and that you have to rethink the gathering of resource part every single time. You're starting from scratch again, optimizing which ore for each spaceship, and it's just this busy work. It's not even like decision making. I guess there's a little bit. You could theoretically take a suboptimal route with a ship to pick up resources to deny another ship resources, but not in a super significant way once the board is full of asteroids everywhere.
So to complicate this, there are ways to refuel ships so that they can move even further if they move a certain way, making it actually a pretty difficult problem to solve and optimize for. Like, even given unlimited time on a complex board, it would take me a while to fully optimize.
Yeah, I think it would actually be hard to write a computer program to fully optimize.
And you have options
the search graph would be enormous.
And you'll have multiple kinds of ships, so when you're buying ships, you got to decide, do I want the one that moves further and picks up less, or the ones that are like, there's way too many variables for the operating round, which should be the least interesting part of a train game.
Right, it's not the part where you're making decisions. And I think that's a fundamental problem with all the train games, is that the part of the investing part of the game, the stock round, is what actually most determines the victory condition, which player wins, which player loses, and which shares you have, right? The second part of the game, the operating rounds, are only sort of secondary to who wins and loses, right? They're important because they control how much money each company is spitting out, but if everyone's good, any good gamer can operate a company not optimally, but optimally enough that it's, right? And the actual decisions made during the operating round aren't as crucial to the actual victory condition of the game, but they take a disproportionate amount of the time and effort, and the stock rounds are usually oversimplified and don't take long at all.
So
you're just buying and selling shares going in a circle. It's real simple.
The really cool part about this game, which is why I really wanted to like it, and this is why I want to make a computer version of this game and then fix a bunch of stuff. But
make 2048, 2058. I don't know.
In some of the other train games,
2057 or 58. Different time, you understand. Different spaceships.
The independent companies tend to be pretty simple and disappear pretty quick. In this game, they're all way different.
Yep.
And you run them like real companies.
The privates.
And there's this whole complicated mechanic where, based on things I don't want to explain in too much depth because you can learn this game if you want to play it, they can either join the Asteroid League or not join the Asteroid League at some point in the future.
Yep.
And the Asteroid League then becomes this company, and there's a whole system around this that is really cool, and I really wanted to interact with that by playing the game more times until I ran into the operating round deadlock that made me never want to play this game again.
Yep. I actually had the Asteroid League. I was the Asteroid League guy.
I know.
Which made it pretty cool because I started the game with one space company.
If I'd understood that I could withhold or pay out, I had the option with these privates, I would have done something way different.
Right.
Because you can also take a private and turn it into a company early. There's way more ways to form companies and do company stuff in this game.
You can make a growth company, which is a company that's worth nothing at the start of the game. And basically, instead of joining the Asteroid League, you'd start this little startup who ships one good basically and sucks ass and starts with no share value.
But I bought those shares for nothing.
Right, but those shares were worth nothing because the company was a guy with a space truck. It's Galaxy Trucker.
But I didn't.
Then theoretically, if you start one early enough and work on it, that can work out to end up being a big ass awesome company.
But that's what I didn't understand. I kept paying out because I had Ice Finder, which was a really it was making a shit ton of money for a private because the way I'd set it up. So I was making all this money and I was paying out dividends to myself, and it was awesome. I didn't realize I could withhold even in these privates. If I'd known that, I would have withheld, and I would have gotten a couple of fewer shares of the other companies.
Weren't we just having a discussion about how it should be illegal to withhold and companies should have to pay out dividends when their profits are too high?
Oh, yeah, but train games are about your evil capitalists exploiting a corrupt system.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, I would do the completely unethical thing.
Yeah.
I would have withheld. I would have turned Ice Finder into a growth company, and I would have made bank. I would have played this game way differently.
I had the Asteroid League, and it was way fun when the Asteroid League formed. And
that was way fun.
But the problem is now I had to control this giant-ass Asteroid League, and that kind of sucked. So
Chris in the chat says the Asteroid League Miners thing comes from a different 18xx game that's more normal.
Okay.
I want to play that one, whichever one that is. Our friend Chris, you'll see him in the forum, and if you see a guy hanging out with us, playing train games at PAX's, it's that guy.
All right.
Chris brings us the train games.
That's right. I don't own any of these fucking things.
I would consider owning 1846.
I would make one before I bought one.
I would own it to start ideating on how I would make one because this game taught me something.
I can just read a rules PDF if I need to.
Yeah, I would play 1846, 1889, a lot of these other train games again. I would never play 2038 again.
No, not in its default tabletop form.
But a video game that was designed to feel a lot like this tabletop game, but take advantage of the fact that it's a computer and have a little more complexity. These games would be more fun if you could have a little bit more complex stock market.
Yeah.
If I could sell options from a train company to other players, or if a player sell futures, that would be fucking impossible to do elegantly in the tabletop. And if you made it too complicated, it would just turn into Civ or...
Right. I mean, there is a New York one, I think, that has selling short, and the stock market is a little bit more complicated. But yeah, like I said before, the victory condition of all these games is mostly in the stock round. The operating round is like this separate mini game of optimization. I would really like to play one where the stock round was more advanced and had more decisions and was more complex, and the operating round was simplified and made more elegant and streamlined and abstract. And this, while the theme and some of the detailed rules and cool thematic things like the Asteroid League and the mining, at least the theme of the mining make it awesome, the reality is this is the exact opposite of what I want in a train game. It is a much simpler stock market, or at least a normal level of complexity stock market for these games, and a ridiculously tedious operating rounds that have fun aspects, but just too many busy work aspects that take too goddamn long.
But here's the line.
To make it worth my while, and so it's like
1846 and 1889. It's like I'll still play those games because it's worth my while enough.
Yes, the tedium is not insane.
2038 is impossibly tedious in the operating round.
Yep. All right, so if you want to get into these games, you can go listen to our old episode of 1846, or go play 1846.
Or 1880 or 1889.
Yeah, you can play that one too, sure. But do not play this one.
1889 is actually better in a lot of ways.
Some ways. Do not play this one, 2038, as your first one. If you're super experienced with these games and you don't mind some tedium and you just want to see what the deal is, there's some good stuff to see here in this one. So I'd recommend you play it, learn it. Maybe not play a whole game of it because it would take too long, or maybe you just have a ton of time and
thing is, even though our game went on so long, we got kicked out of PAX and couldn't finish it.
Right. I would not recommend this one though for serious buying, playing, and replaying.
Yep. But I realized something fundamental. The primary problem with these games is that because they are tabletop and because they have very fiddly rules everywhere else, they end up needing to rely heavily on start player order. And the mechanics to determine that are just terrible. Mm-hmm. And it matters too much to be a terrible mechanic.
Yep.
That is the thing I think you could solve with all of these tabletop games. You can make them more elegant without ruining what makes them unique and different from the Euros we tend to like more.
Yes, I'm in favor of a simultaneous market and not an ordered market because I learned after playing, it took me like a year or two.
Oh, Scott, mule.
Right. It took me a year or two to learn how important the priority deal is because that means you go first in the stock round, how that gives you... basically having it at the right time is how you win the game. And I've played several games of this, and I basically got burned by it over and over. That I learned it, but got burned by it even though I saw it and was trying to grab it.
In this one, I was the start player. I basically had the start for most of the game,
right?
Because it was a 3-player game, and neither of you were willing to rust stuff, and I just.
Well, no, there was a game of 1889 I played, I think at MagFest, where I finally understood it and was trying to grab a hold of it, and it's like I understand it now, but I can't get it.
Yeah, you know what that's like? It's like, ooh, I understand this Raging Bull. Now I will attempt to ride it.
Right, it's like I understand what I have to do in a video game, but even though I know when I have to push the button at that time, but I keep pushing it and it's not the right time, and I keep dying anyway.
Yep.
When we played this, it was the first time where I finally managed to grab a hold of that priority deal mechanic at the right time, move my trains from one company to the other, force the shitty company onto rim, right? Get everything in order. I didn't do it perfectly. I could have done it even better, but that's just because I didn't understand exactly when the trains would rust, spaceships would rust.
But the problem is,
so
spaceship rusting is also so important and also relies so heavily on the turn order.
Right, but I could have screwed rim more, but the point is that was the first, it would, regardless of which one he played, this still would have been the one where I figured it out finally. Because it's the same mechanic in all of them, basically. So, coincidence there.
So, yeah, Space Trains is the only one I've played so far that I would never play again. Which is a shame because stylistically, A+.
Stylistically, A+.
A+. It feels very Dune.
All the characters and art and, everything about space-wise is really great. So, that's a shame.
All right.